Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of the Mouthful with Marcus. Today we are speaking with the owner of Adelaide's currently most viral coffee shop, Tommy Oswald. At just 18 years old, Tommy opened his passion project idea of Homeboy Cafe to the public and was met with, well, not customers, but instead the bleak reality of an empty cafe. But then, with some creative storytelling and resourceful use of social media, which we're going to talk about in this episode, Tommy flipped the script and created a tsunami of support. Having now reached a staggering 400,000 followers across all of his social media platforms, Tommy's Homeboy Cafe is now well and truly on the map. And today, we're going to talk to him about all of the lessons he's learned along the way. It's a jam-packed podcast full of value, so I recommend tuning in and enjoying. Thanks, guys. Along the way. Tommy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. That's very kind
you
of
like
you.
That?
That's
like
nice.
That? I wrote that out probably like 10 minutes ago. I was like, yes, he's going to like this. Okay, guys, I have been following Tommy for a while, as I'm sure many of you guys have. He's done a great job on social media. You're here in the room. You've done a great job on social media.
Thank you.
The reason why I wanted you on the pod, and I know we've talked about this, but I thought I'd give context to the guests or the people listening. You've done a really good job. Obviously, you're 18. Super inspired by you. I love watching your stuff. I like the idea that you share the ups, the downs. You're really transparent with the way you are with building your business, right? Which is key for the young ones out there in the sense of like the people who are inspired by you actually can follow along with your journey. The goal of this podcast is I kind of want to break down how you've done it, but not make this a here's how I made it podcast. Yeah. It's more of a here's what I'm doing. I'm probably, you're still very early on. I'm still very on. Yeah. We're going to evolve, transcend, build, and we're probably going to make mistakes from this,
absolutely
from this point forward. But I want to talk to you about what you've done so far.
Yeah, transparency is key, and we want to share that.
100%. If I get a little bit cringe with my sound effects, I'm going to. Yeah. So far, some guests have loved them. Some people haven't, but I'm going to continue anyway. Anywho, I figured we'd start by giving the context to the people who don't know you, a little bit of a synopsis on what Homeboy is and how you started.
All right, so Homeboy Cafe started in around July last year, and me and my dad walked in this little art shop, and we saw this little cafe through like the creak of the doors. We saw that it wasn't really being used, and we asked about it, and after talking to them for a little bit, they said, yeah, they had a last pop-up that was just coming to a close, and they were actually looking for someone to start a new little spot, and it was like a perfect fit because I'd already had like the entrepreneurial mind, I guess, I don't know. And
so you kind of always wanted to start a cafe?
I was looking for opportunities like that to like kind of learn business and stuff. So it seemed like a perfect thing. I couldn't.
So it sort of presented it presented itself to you organically, and you just sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
Can you tell me what Homeboy is? I know we've established it as a cafe, but like what makes Homeboy Homeboy?
What makes Homeboy Homeboy?
A place to eat, a place for hospitality and love of food.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like going to a friend's house. I feel like you go there, you chill, you have a laugh, you just sit down and I don't know, eat their food and yeah.
I've seen you've kind of created that vibe through your content in general, like the way you like your friends come visit.
All
like
the time.
It's a hub for everybody to come.
It is. It's really special.
So I want to get into sort of that first early part. I know I've sort of clickbaited it at the start as Tommy was met with no customers. I mean, any business starts out, you always start small and you begin. Yeah. But I think a lot of that initial virality and the way I found you initially was this, you've started a cafe. Actually, I've got an article here. Do you mind if I read?
Yeah,
Do you mind?
sure.
So
Not the articles.
You were on the news. You were all over newspapers. You were
crazy.
viral. Grim reality of opening a cafe at 18 and having no customers.
Grim reality.
An Australian teenager who took on a major business project straight after school has drawn back the curtain on the glum reality of staying afloat when customers are hard to come by. Not one customer passed through the doors of 18-year-old Tom Oswald's cafe, Homeboy, when he opened it in South Australia's Harndorf in July. The team documented the sad day. Why was it? I really want to know if this was a marketing strategy by you, or perhaps you were feeling, oh God, this is hard, this sucks. But essentially, you've opened your doors and you've just said, you know what? I don't have customers. I'm going to show it. Can you tell me what was in your head, how you got there?
Literally, it was just like, this is kind of funny. I was like laughing at myself.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, this is hilarious. But I just set it up, like filmed the place, and it looked so much sadder than it actually was. Like I was expecting that. Like that's normal.
Yeah.
Like that's the cost of being too transparent.
Yeah.
Like Yeah.
Essentially, this is a video of me being quite literal and transparent with my situation.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? I was prepared for it,
Yeah.
but you've posted it and everyone's just taken it as this, oh, poor bloke,
Yeah, poor
man.
bloke.
He's
I
giving
need
it
to
a
come
crack
see
and
him,
he
yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, it was.
So
it wasn't as sad as it
what
could
did that lead to for you? No doubt I've just foregrounded it as you're on, this is what, news.com?
Crazy.
Like everywhere.
If you search up like Tom Oswald Cafe, bro, there's like 10 articles just all saying like young kid failed his dream. Like, chill.
How good?
It's good publicity.
Yeah.
It really is. And after those articles, it was like the craziest weekend. People were lining up. There was lines at the start of the day before I'd even opened.
Describe to me that first thing of trade since the virality. What was that like?
Insane amount of support. It was just everyone coming through. People driving like over an hour to see the cafe. Like that is crazy.
That is,
I
like that initial point when people, regardless of whether or not they know you and they can see you giving something a crack. Sure, it might have been positioned as a sob story by other people, but regardless of how you got there, when people see and they come and support, I feel like that's very, very good of the community. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Was it hard managing that first rush of people? Like,
oh, bro, it gets
you
crazy,
can't have been ready. I mean, usually, again, the good thing about having no customers is you build your skills as you go.
Exactly.
You've just gone from 0 to viral.
100. So, it was stressful with those lines and stuff, but nah, I get it done.
Hectic. Very, very cool. I think the interesting part now is, and I wonder what your thoughts on this are, is, I'm not trying to make this negative, but there's always this idea of people in the world where they support you when you're trying something, but then as soon as you're past their expectation of what you want it to be, or you're past, what they were comfortable with, or you've gone above them in terms of skill or success. I'm not trying to make this a levels thing, but like, do you worry that they'll get a point where it's like, firstly, the community starts by propelling you like, this guy's giving it a crack. We love him. And now it's, this guy's a flog. He's gotten too successful. He's too big for his boots. Like, make sure you grow, Tommy, but not too much.
Yeah, stay humble.
Are you worried about that? Or
not really? I feel like if you're actually providing good content, good quality stuff, good product, then people will keep coming back. So about that first, I might have gotten some help by some like websites and stuff, but once they see that my product actually kind of good,
I think it's a good attitude to have as well. Like, even in your content now, despite having the hundreds of thousands of followers, you're still like, here's what I learned today, here's what I upgraded today. It's not like, hey guys, I've gone viral, I've got all of these followers, I've got worldwide support, but now I'm done, these are my products, come buy them. It's like, I'm still growing this thing.
I'm still sharing every part of the journey, and that's
cool. All right. Well, that's a very interesting part. And it's interesting, like everyone I've talked to in advance, like, I'm having Tommy on from Homeboy. Is that the bloke that like put up that video about being fucking no customers?
Yeah, that's the one everyone knows me for.
It's it doesn't matter how you get there sometimes, which is cool and awesome. Speaking of, let's rewind. I want to get to the early days. I mean, you're 18, I would say now are the early days. I just felt like an old person saying that. I'm only 23, but either or. I want to talk to you about, and I've got it written here, what was your experience in school like? Have you applied much of what you learned into building this business? Because no doubt you graduated last year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's killer, man. That's killer.
Thank you.
I like it. I was going to get into a story, but I'm learning as I go podcast by podcast. I ask a question, guest answers. Go for it, Tommy.
So high school, I really enjoyed high school. Always wanted to have like a business on the side, or something I could work on the side as well. So I had a little clothing brand. I feel like every young entrepreneur starts a little clothing brand.
Get ready. I brought this on purpose just because you inspired me. For the audio listeners, I'm currently holding the first ever business I ever started. I was 19 years old. It was a clothing brand myself. I mean, like you said,
I actually like it.
The brand was all about trying your hardest despite how hard the work was. Yeah. I've only brought this because you've inspired me.
That's sick.
I like the idea that, when you're starting out, you'll always have this graveyard of past efforts and attempts. I'm sure your first clothing brand at 18 in school was not your first attempt at something, right? You've been doing this for a long time because it's been in you've been a creative person. So you're saying you were interested in business at school?
Yeah.
And then you figured you'd give it a crack? Yeah. You'd give it a crack versus just
and it's good.
Studying it?
I think everyone who has an interest in business, you just got to start. You just got to start one. Even if you fail, you learn the processes and all the functions of business. Really valuable, even if it fails. You learn so much, like it's crazy.
No rep is ever wasted. So your first brand was a clothing brand, similar to mine. Obviously, you're wearing a cool ass hat right now. That's your merch right now. But it led into a cafe. Where I wanted to go with that was, I've written it here. How did you learn, and where did you learn the initial skills of running a cafe? Because running a business is one thing, but I bet you if I made you a coffee, it would be a quarter of as good of as your coffee. Where did you learn those skills?
So I worked at a cafe at La Crema for about a year or so, and kind of learned. I started as a dishy and kind of worked my way up to the coffee, I guess. And boss barely even let me on the machine. Like, I wasn't that good. I was trash. But that's funny, actually. When I first started, I was still working at that cafe. When I first started at Homeboy, still working at that cafe for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I still couldn't make a good coffee. And I literally threw myself into the deep end and say, I'll learn as I go. And it's crazy. I couldn't make a good coffee. Like, I couldn't do any art, but I was like, let's just try this. I'd rather try and fail rather than not even. So
that's crazy.
That's just like
the throwing yourself in the deep end thing. That's definitely a valuable thing the audience can take in terms of, I mean, it is a common story of people who like, everything you have is everything you need. Give it a crack. But I like the idea that
it's normally an excuse. They're like, I'm not good enough. I can't. Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm going is, did you have not that confidence is something you're born with, it's something that you earn. I've always been a big believer of competence builds confidence. And competence is essentially the efforts of sucking at coffee for a long time and eventually getting there. Was there a mindset you had that got you through the times of, because I know everyone goes through it, the idea of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
No doubt, there's the idea of fake it till you make it, or just try it until you get good at it. How did you push yourself through the times where you were shit?
Well, I always think like life is just literally repetitions. Like, everyone has the same ability to be as great as one another. So all it is reps. So if you just keep thinking about that, you're going to be equally successful as the people who have.
I 100% agree, because I've seen the light and I've been doing, like, for example, I started posting on social media to nobody, like my YouTube videos when I was like 13, 14, right? Doing it a long time. And there were a lot of times where like, this sucks, but it's the best I can do right now.
Exactly.
And when it's the best you can do right now, you're proud of it, right?
Yeah.
For the people who haven't quite seen the light and perhaps haven't done the amount of reps to have that, you do the compounding thing and you look back a year later and you're like, oh yeah, that thing I sucked at, I'm so glad I stuck with it because now I'm here. And then you're like, okay, well, time to suck at something else until I'm at the next spot. What do you say to the people that they're on coffee number 3 and they're like, oh yeah, shit, you know what? Coffee's not for me. I'm going to become something else.
Reps.
How do you get them doing the reps though? Because there's the argument these days of, it's so trendy to say you got to do things in life that you're passionate about. But I'm very convinced that you're not passionate about things you suck at, right? So sometimes those initial stages, it's not about finding or not whether you're passionate about it. It's about doing the reps to become passionate. How do you get people from point A to B of like getting over the hump of trialing something to, I actually really want to pursue this? Maybe it's having the attitude of going headfirst into it regardless of whether you're good or bad, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look back at those times and like, oh, that was necessary for me to become what I am. So
I feel, I don't want to repeat myself, but I feel like when I was younger, and maybe that's the good thing, we'll go back to the school conversation. Going through school, even when I was working at subjects that I hated, like learning another language or history or something like that, I always gave it my 100% and tried to aim for that A. Not that it means anything now, not that I used it, but it was I don't really care if I like this or not. The output is what I want. And then when you can take that output and like, okay, well, I stuck with something even if I didn't like it. And you can put that into something you do like right now, clearly you're very interested in storytelling. You're interested in business. You're interested in coffees. It's so much easier to apply that output to something you love, but you won't find the thing you love until you've put yourself through the things you don't.
Exactly. Just try everything. Like, take every opportunity as something that could make you better. And
was there anything at school that you remember that has helped you? Or it was literally last year, bro. Like, do you look back on that and you think, yeah, I'm glad I had this, or Where did your foundation of business come from? Let me guess, you threw yourself in the deep end as well?
Reps. No. I don't know. It's just always wanted to be my own boss, I guess, and have creative control over something. And it's not really about how much money I make or anything. It's about creating something special, and creating 100%. Is the main part.
100%.
The journey is way more important than anything that comes out of it. So
correct. And at the end of the day, if that's your priority there, and like what you've just, I couldn't agree with it more. monetary result will come as a byproduct.
Exactly.
It's a given.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
The next question I have is there anyone you take a lot of inspiration from? How has that been a guide for what you do? Because, for me, a lot of those go out and try things, go 100% into it was based off of paths I'd already seen from social media people that I really like. Like I really love watching people. I'm like, oh, I never looked at people above me and got jealous and be like, why do they have that and I don't?
Yeah.
I always thought of it as, oh my God, that's possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I always say like growing up, I used to watch like a bunch of Casey Neistat stuff. That's where I get like my filmmaking. And people actually compared me and that's like the biggest compliment.
Yep.
Like, you actually remind me of Casey
Oh,
Neistat.
dude.
I'm like, bro, thank you.
Dude.
Like,
I can
100%.
quite literally, I have a memory in my head. It was year 10 business. I remember like I got merits in business through school. And I don't say that as a flex. I say that as I learned more in the first 6 months of me getting screwed over in business than I did all through school. I don't say that for a flex, but what I mean to say is I remember being in that business class, probably year 10, mate, I would have been watching since year 9, just watching Casey Neistat in the morning with my friends. Good. My first vlogs, I remember I copied his title sequence. All of my vlogs were the exact same from probably vlog 1 to 20, all Casey Neistat. Storytelling, sharing, being authentic, finding your voice. So cool. So cool.
It's difficult as well. Like daily vlogs.
Oh,
I did for like a year straight.
Yeah.
So such high quality and stuff.
Okay. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is I've written it here, the power of just getting started, right? Because at the end of the day, like we said, competence builds confidence and you don't get the confidence until you're out here like, okay, well, this could work. Trial this, trial that. I've written the idea of firing bullets, not cannonballs. Now, this is something I've had to teach myself and something I've struggled with. You know the game Battleship? So you know how like you like something to A4 or whatever and you do and they say miss and then you're like, okay, let's fire another one. And then when you get a hit, you start doubling down in that area to find the ship and knock the ship down. A lot of the time in business and with my work and in general, I've had to really stop myself from, I have this really big idea. Let's action on it. Let's do this big thing. I'll put 3-4 months into it, all of the resources I have. Then you put it out to the world and you might really believe in your project. You might really love it, but perhaps the market or the people out there don't, right? And where I'm going with this is marketing 101 is like, how can we understand what the people want? And then as an artist, transfer that into something that I believe in, right? Versus being like, I only put out what I believe in. And if you don't like it, too bad. Because then you're not a business, you're failing, right?
You shoot for the moon and you miss, you still land in the stars.
Bang. Correct. So where I'm going with this is, I wanted to talk to you about your location and what that's done for you in terms of the fact that, a lot of cafe owners, they'll be like, I have this amazing idea for a one-of-one cafe that's going to kick ass. Let me put $100,000 into it. Let me build out the menu before anyone even knows who I am. And once I've done all of that work, I'm going to release it and hope to God people like it. Whereas you've just got straight for it and you're learning as you go, but the market actually likes your shit. So talk to me about everything.
Because that is the typical way of like starting a business, right? You take a loan, you get a lease and you spend like $100,000, $200,000, but the way I do it is a bit different. So the shop is the paint box. So it's connected to this paint shop and it's like an art studio, a gallery, art shop and a cafe. That's all the same thing. And pretty much
like a share space is what you're saying.
So it's multiple businesses running in the same spot. And the paint box pretty much sponsored my cafe. So that's how I'm able to do it affordably because it really creates a destination for the shop. Because like, what can the paint box do to compete with like the online giants like Officeworks and all that online? It's creating a destination. So by doing the cafe, yes, you might lose. She could just hire someone and have the cafe running, pay them on a flat rate. But no, she found a young person and knew that he'd give it his all, and he takes 100% of my own profits.
So in layman's terms, what you've done is instead of going out, getting a loan or buying or getting a lease for a space and then fitting it out and doing all this upfront work for a place that doesn't have customers, you've just said, all right, you've got an existing space. You have a void to fill. I'll fill that void. We mutually benefit here.
Exactly.
And you're building your thing from the start up. And where I'm going with this is I've got something that you've said before. It might be in one of your bios. You've written, I can afford to take risks and fail, learning from my mistakes and growing in the process, all without exposing myself to great commercial risk. Now that sums up the conversation, but also at the same time, what gave you that idea? Did you just think, how can I start the quickest way?
It wasn't my idea. So this has been an idea happening for, I think, generations now. But think it originated in London.
Mm.
This place called Layla's Shop or something. Yeah, the whole collaborative idea and like splitting costs. Like if that makes sense. If more businesses are working in the same space, obviously it's going to cost less for the operating costs. So
and you look at any good business, the goal is like build a great product and make sure there's demand for the product. And then all the other systems is just how can I fulfill that in the best way? Customer service, speed, margins,
Yeah.
But you've got the fundamental right. And it's so like to figure that out early, sure, you might have had inspiration or whatever. People often ask me, Marcus, are you ever going to open your own sandwich deli one day? Are you ever going to open your own? I get that. That question happens almost every day. Yeah. And I just say, if I do anything physical that's not an online business, because I've built everything online, everything's all online, right? Because I find it a little bit more scalable. But I've always loved food and hospitality, but I've never been a big hospo guy, right? I've always said pop-ups will be the way, because at least, I can pop it up in one location, take it away. It's scalable, buildable model that you can put anywhere. And, it being a pop-up, maybe it'll only have 3 menu items, but they'll sure as fuck sell out. You know what I mean? I'm not the guy with a 30-item menu that doesn't sell.
Yeah.
So
no, that is a dream, like moving from pop-up to pop-up. I think that's the way that business should be operated more. And not enough people are talking about it. I feel like it's just...
because it's all vanity, bro. I'm not... I was going to get into the analogy of the difference between people renting their cars and buying their cars, but that's just a thing you drive, not an asset. I like the idea that you can take Homeboy and you can put it anywhere. That's the key. Yeah. And there's no need to like, oh yeah, I bought this place. I fitted it out for fucking $2 million. Look at all the stone. It's so good. But then like you don't have customers, and when the customers come, you're doing a shit job. But hey, you've got that really cool lighting setup. Like, hey, you've got that really cool window and branding. It's like...
which is more valuable.
Focus on the customers, you know what I mean?
And by having it all set up already, I could focus on what's important.
Correct. So. In the first few months of being open, what have you learned, and what's the biggest misconception you had about running a cafe? Sorry, I read it in that voice because I wasn't sure if that was a question. I'm just looking at notes.
Yeah. What's the biggest misconception?
Yeah. What did you think the cafe life would be versus what it is?
I didn't realize it would probably consume my whole life, because I was still working another job at the time. So I didn't think it would consume my life, but I love that it's consumed my life, because it's fun every day going to work, knowing that the people you might meet and the opportunities that might come through every day.
In terms of misconceptions, though, you didn't. Okay, so you've just said you didn't think it'd consume your life, which it has. Good thing, cool. Yeah, is there anything different about the actual industry or the way of operating a cafe that you didn't expect? Like working at the old cafe you used to work at before you opened Homeboy. You just go there, you do the dishes and make the coffees. You didn't realize you had to order the milk yourself. You didn't realize you had to get the stock yourself. You didn't realize that if a sign breaks, Tommy's got to fix the thing. Anything like that.
Things are always going wrong. I'm always running out of stock. I go to the supermarket like every day after work because I ran out of something.
They must know you by now. They're like, oh, yeah, Tommy.
No, they sick of me. The deli, because I get all my meats from there.
Yeah.
And I'm not this kid again. Because I order I had 2 kilograms of mortadella, and they're like, it's like in the rush. But it's funny. But stock management and all that. Management, things breaking. But,
what about I know your Adelaide's I want to say star child, but like people love you, right? Where I'm going with this is, what about the idea of, before, when you had a bad customer experience at the place you worked, you'd be like, okay, like I'll do my best to manage this, but at the end of the day, the boss is going to figure this one out. You're the boss now. What happens if someone's like, Tommy, you suck. Your coffee sucks. Give me a refund. You suck.
I can't actually name a bad. I'm not trying to start an egotistical, but I haven't really had like a bad interaction. Like all my customers really nice. Good community, I feel like Harndorf.
Have you butchered an order before? Have you, obviously you'd probably rectify it, but like has there been anything where you're like, geez, I really didn't know that making 3 sandwiches at once with 4 coffees orders at once over lunch is that easy, like that hard?
Yeah, I think besides like spilling hot water all over myself and burning myself with a long black.
Yep.
People taking the wrong orders sometimes if it's busy, that's annoying because it's like not even your fault but it probably is my fault. I was going to say it, but.
Accountability, 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I've said, we've kind of touched on this. I said, mention the graveyard of lessons and mistakes left behind by you to get where you are now. I mean, that's sort of why I packed the shirt here is like, I don't run a clothing business. Like I've sold, even the t-shirt I'm wearing now, I've sold as merch. But where I'm going with this is I might not be a merch person now. You might not be the X, Y, and Z you once were. But how much has that contributed to what you do now? You know what I mean?
Mm.
That
Like,
was a question. Sorry. I was very unclear.
what was the question?
More of like how much, I was going to just try and touch on the idea of how much have your past experiences accumulated into now?
Yeah. Ooh, everything compounds into what I do. Like literally going to the gym every day. I try to do some sort of physical exercise every day. It keeps the mind active. So something, I don't know.
Do you find
Everything
yourself like mentoring the friends around you? Like
No.
anything like that?
No, they treat me the exact same as when I was like, which I respect. I was like, it's like you think like, bro, I'm up now. Like, surely you're hyping me up. Like, no, we treat you the
My
exact same.
friends do
And I
not
respect that.
give a flying fuck. I mean,
Yeah.
they've watched me put up stuff like I used to have them in my videos from when I was like 15, 16. They support me. I mean, I have a trusted, solid group. I've had the same friends since like I was 12 years old. Yeah. Brothers, blood. I see it as brothers, right? We have a brotherhood. Very, very lucky, and they've supported me. They've always, told me when to pull my head in, or like, this sucks. This is like, they're great for feedback, but they don't care. They'll watch me get recognized in the street, and they're like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!
Exactly.
Like, really, dude? Like, come on!" Like, or like, let's say someone asked me for a photo in front of them, they all just start laughing. Like, this Mark's is a dickhead. Like, you guys don't know him. He's a dickhead. Don't worry about him. Okay. Speaking of social media and people knowing who you are, I've written, what's been your overall strategy for reaching new people? Now, this one might seem obvious, and I know in your head you're like, oh, this is the way I do it. Good. Let's talk to the people about what you've actually done. Break it down. So
every video, I try to target people who've never seen my content. So that's why I always have the title like running a cafe solo at 18. So it's targeting people who've never seen me, so I can kind of open up to a new audience every time. But then
I don't know if caveat is the right word but to caveat that, I think I might have just used that wrong. To link off of that, you're also making sure your content's at a quality where the existing people are still happy with you.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people be like, okay, growth only. We only want to be on the For You page. We only want to be on the Explore page. We only want to reach new people. But then their engagement's like, it's boom and bust. You've got the viral ones that reach new people, and then you've got the people who are already following you and they're like, oh, this sucks. It's always sales. It's always look at me. It's always new. I feel like what you do really well is you document what's happening. You don't say, here's why you should try my cafe. Here's why this coffee is this. You're not talking about the product. You're talking about the brand, the business.
Spot on. Yeah, I think just sharing.
Let's break it down into bit by bit pieces in terms of your content, because I'll watch you and I'll be like, okay, yeah, he's a filmmaker. Yeah, he's watched Casey Neistat.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You document the B-roll of you setting up the shop, and then you include stuff of you interacting with the customers. What have been some like methods you've used to make sure people enjoy it? Like music choice, shot selection. What are you thinking when you're making the thing? How can I make this more consumable?
Keep it engaging, like quick cuts. You need to create actually content that people actually do want to watch. Like some people can't wrap their head around. Like you can't just promote your business just for the sake of promoting it. You need to create stuff that people actually want to watch. And if that means like learning about filmmaking and all that, you should probably learn. And yeah.
I've found you have a really cool aesthetic. Something that I can't quite achieve myself. I'm very well, I know how to make food look good, but I'm the guy who still leave crumbs everywhere, and like whether you're clean and nice and
it doesn't get clean sometimes.
You make a really good point there, and we kind of touched on it earlier in the podcast of like, sure, you're a business owner and your skill is, baristaing at the moment, and obviously as you scale, you learn how to be a leader and teach people to do the same stuff. But it's crazy that to build your business, you've just said, I've had to take my barista hat off. I've had to take my business hat off and put a new hat on, which is like community, building social media presence, learning to storytell. The next question I had for you then was, is there a place that you could recommend people look, or where did you find your resources? Sure, you threw yourself into the deep end, but what does the deep end look like when you're in there? Like, where should people look? What did you do? What were the steps?
Well, the truth is, like, I don't have it figured out, and that's what's important. Like,
okay, so what are you doing to figure it out? You jumping on YouTube? Are you surrounding yourself by people who know more than you? Like that sort of stuff. What's been a really valuable thing for you and your learning at the moment?
Ooh, I think there's so much content out there, so much inspiration you can look at. Instagram, TikTok, all that. I feel like when I see people doing so well, that makes me want to do better. So if I see something similar,
Are you saying perhaps instead of doom scrolling on social media and just consuming it,
Like,
you're putting on an analyst hat?
Yeah.
You're-
And be aware of what you're like digesting and actually.
So when you're saying like from a learning to do content perspective, you're not just mindlessly consuming, being like, all right, time to make a video. It's like, let me go watch what the best cafes are doing right now.
Yeah.
And is that a garbage truck that you hear right now? Sorry we've got a garbage truck changing the bins right now. What's the best cafe in the space doing right now? What does their content look like? And let me try and break down why I like it and transfer that into my own stuff.
Well, I don't really look at cafe. Actually, I do. In terms of like the product, like I've been to like 1,000 Sando spots in the city, just looking around and practice making them and all that. That's in terms of the product, but in terms of like my marketing strategy or whatever,
so maybe an actionable step could be do your research and really consciously take note of like, okay, what do you vibe with and what is everybody else vibing with?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The next question I have is what actually makes a good cafe? Because I know you're very, very product focused. And I know right now you're probably a quarter of the menu items you could have in the future.
All it is, if the customer leaves the building, feel better, they feel happier, you've done your job. So if that means good customer service, just a smile on your face, how's your day, good chat, good cup of coffee, like one thing can make them their day
first.
so much better. So definitely customer.
Customer, always thinking about the customer. Yeah. Always make it work. Okay.
That was always key.
What was I going to say? Pausing while I read some notes. Should we sing to people while we wait for the next question? Well, I guess we could get into the stuff about the future. I'm just trying to think if there's any way we can still break down and teach people a little bit more about what you've learned along the way. Maybe we'll get into the future conversation and then move from there.
Yeah, all good.
Geez, that bin's really hectic.
That's loud.
We're going to pause just for a moment while this freaking garbage truck decides to move itself. We are back. The garbage truck has now left. The dump truck is gone. I wanted to actually, before we move on to the future, I wanted to talk to you about the people you surround yourself with. No doubt we've already keep that thing very close to your mouth.
Close.
Even if you pull
Closer.
it. Yeah, closest. Yeah, nice, good. I want to talk to you about the people you surround yourself with. No doubt we've already touched on the idea of having brothers and people you can trust. But in terms of, there's this one saying, and I'm sure many people have heard it, is if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. Now, I've always been the type of person to lock myself in a room and hustle until I can't hustle anymore. Just go, sleep, go, sleep, go, sleep, go. But then I've also realized, like, in my older years, like, I love my people. These people charge my battery up. And what's the point of all of this? What's all of this worth if I have nobody to share it with? So I've always been a big one that, like, isolates myself to work, but then I realized, well, wait, I'm doing this work so I can have the freedom to give my people things. Like I want to look after them, right? I have found though that these group of brothers that I have, they don't run a business. They don't do what I do. Most of the time they don't understand what I do either. I love telling them nonetheless. I don't need to relate to them. I love them for other things. And maybe that's the blessing, having friends that like, they don't actually care. You're there to talk to them about the footy. Like
their problems and stuff.
Correct. Yeah. Where I'm going with this is over this time of virality and news people reaching out to you and 400,000 followers, you're having a lot of interactions all the time. Have you found value in building a network of people like-minded?
Yeah, 100%. Like my friend group, they're all like-minded. They all want to strive for some sort of business success and stuff. Pretty entrepreneurial, I feel like, my friend group.
Okay, so you have that in common. That's good.
Yeah. So always discussing like their ideas, what they want to do.
What about new people though, Tommy? I mean, like people reaching out like, hey, I have this marketing idea for you, or hey, I run this operations thing and I could really help you here. Like you'd have a lot of people reaching out.
That's the beauty of social media. I can see all these people who've done amazing work. And yeah, I've literally reached out to some filmmakers because I want to do some things with some things coming up soon, some exciting things. So yeah, watch out. But
Tommy Oswald exclusive. You hear that, guys? Hear it first on the Mouthful by Marcus.
Yeah, so filmmaking, I've reached out to some filmmakers. So looking to do some content in the future.
Maybe you can relate to this. I'll try and say it slightly differently. Is like, for example, like my business is social media, doing promotions for other businesses, and then selling my own products like the cookbook. And then something else is coming. Speaking of, Marcus. No, we're not going to tease. No, we wait till things are done and then we tease them.
Exactly.
Where I'm going with this is I have a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, Marcus, I can help you with this. Hey, Marcus, do you need advice for this? Hey, Marcus, you should buy this thing from me to help you with this. Like I have a lot of people trying to sell me things all the time. And a lot of the time I think I have to have this balance. And definitely as an 18-year-old, you definitely have so many people reaching out saying, hey, you should try this or let me sell you this to improve this. I struggle, and maybe you might have an answer for me, between two minds of, number one, there are people out there who know more than me. How can I listen to them and take on their feedback and grow based on them having more skills? And that's what I love about having a positive network of people who do things the same as you, or if not further ahead. Like I love talking to people who have done the thing that I'm trying to do because they've always got the steps that they save you time figuring it out yourself.
Definitely.
But then there's also the element of like, everyone seems to have an opinion and everyone knows what's best for you. And it's about putting your blinders on and just being like, okay, this is working for me. I'm not saying that I'm blocked off to improvement, but also at the same time, there's a focus, e.g. the customer, or like building things bit by bit. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear anything else other than what I'm doing. Can I please just, I'm going to move forward. Do you go through that? Are there people in your ear telling you certain stuff and you're like, you know what, just let me do it this way?
This way. I think it is pretty valuable to just speak to people because people are pretty like closed-minded to learning from other people when everyone has their own intelligence in whatever they're interested in. So if you can get them to speak about that, you can learn from.
Were there people at the start for you that were like, nah, you should do it this way, or no, you're doing this wrong, and you're like, oh, just let me fail, let me touch the stove, and if it doesn't work, then at least I've learned and I believed it didn't work.
I spoke to people I trust. I got this little cafe. Should I jump in? I don't even really know much about coffee, but it'd be cool to learn a bit about business. And they're like, yeah, you got to jump in. You got to. And that was really valuable, having the right people to lead me in the right direction, give me the confidence I needed to. Jump in. What's
been the biggest growth for Tommy as a person since starting this business? Take Homeboy away now. What's been your biggest growth in the past 6 months, mindset wise?
Thinking more about other people rather than myself, because jumping into it was all like me. Like I feel like, but with the whole collaboration thing, it's taught me you got to actually like collaborate with the people around you and like focus more what you can do for other people rather than yourself. And once I started implementing that, my life got way better. So if you kind of strive to help other people,
I feel like it puts your finger on
in return.
100%. It puts your finger on the pulse a little bit more in the sense of like, going back to the whole, the money will come if I just do things I believe in. When your finger's on the pulse, you're thinking, what are the people going to like? How can I help them in the best way possible? How can I give them what they're after? And then suddenly things fall into place. You know what I mean?
That's all business is at the end of the day. It's helping someone that needs something to.
I like the idea of collaborating. I think that's why I've started this podcast, because I think for so long now I've thought, I've got a system. I make cooking videos. People like them. I'll just keep doing that. And I think, well, there are people with other skills and other stories that are like cooler than mine. Like you started a cafe at 18. Why can't we share that story? You know what I mean? I love that part about the podcast. Speaking of, I've gotten this is an open-ended question here. Where would you like to be by 30 years old?
I can't even. I get this question a lot. Like, where would you want to be in 5-10 years? I can't. I literally can't. Like, I'm only ever thinking about the step in front of me.
Yeah.
So,
do you have a long-term vision? Like for me, like a lot of people might have it in their head. I'm going to make it by this age. I'm going to have everything I need, and then I'm going to go on holiday. And it's like bullshit. For me, it's like I love what I do so much. I'll be doing this until I die. It's what's the level of what I'm doing? How much involvement do I have in what I'm doing? How can I tailor this lifestyle to be like, okay, well, like for example, you love coffee, you love business, you love storytelling and filmmaking. Okay. You've managed to culminate that into one offer, which is Homeboy. But, for example, you might not enjoy making the sandwiches as much as you do building the brand. So the 30-year-old version of you is like, okay, Homeboy is a multi-million-dollar business now. It's successful, but I'm only working on the brand and dealing with the customers. Somebody else is making the sandwiches. Not saying that you're above making sandwiches, but what I mean to say is like, I have a vision in my life of like, I will die with a camera in my hands.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, no matter which business I build, no matter what compromises I make on my videos to make money, to live off of it and build that freedom, at the end of the day, I will still have a camera in my hand.
Beautiful.
A lot of business owners would be like, well, Marcus, if you're always the dude on the tools, you'll never be the operator, and that's your time, and then the business is worse. Well, it's like, okay, of course, how can I build a system right now with things like the podcast, things of what's coming soon? How can I build an umbrella that catches the things that I love doing and builds my freedom in the ways I love working, but also gives you those outsized returns? Because I bet you there's a high chance, if I were to break this down with you, the cafe is what you've chosen to vehicle on. But if you were to really solidify what does my life at 30 look like, I don't think it's exactly what you're doing right now.
I think by making that destination, that goal, you might not even be happy when you get there.
No,
so it's really about, you probably look back at the time, I loved when I was just initially.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's never the, people have this idea of like, once I reach this, then this, but the goalposts will always change, and your scope of life, like you're setting this goal as an 18-year-old, of course your mindset's going to be different at 30. But if I were to ask again, do you have an idea of what you'd like your life to kind of look like? It doesn't even have to be with Homeboy. Maybe Homeboy turns into Home Braz, and it becomes like a coffee cups brand for all I know. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. What does Tommy's life look like? What do you want?
Ooh, it's literally just good people around me, friends, family, and just peace at peace. It's not really about the money or success. I just want to work and be proud of something that I did in the past, and proud of my efforts, I guess.
What about like if you were to ask me that question, my answer would be like, I want to be the person. And I'm getting vulnerable with you guys if you're watching or listening to this. I want to be the person in people's lives that they turn to when they need help. I want to be so like, and I don't say rich so that I can flex and be the person who's got lots of money and material. I don't give a fuck about half the stuff I own. Every bit of money I have, I put back into the business, right? Yeah. I want to be so financially well off, Tommy, that whenever there's a problem, and maybe this comes from some sort of fear or insecurity, whenever there's a problem, I can fix it. At least financially. I don't want to worry about my daughter going to the doctors and me not being able to afford it. I don't want to worry about, okay, there's shit happening in the family. How can I look after my sister? I want to be the provider. I want to be the person who looks after people in my life. And I want to be the, it's going to sound godfathery, but like the Don. And I don't say that out of ego. I say it like, I love you people. Hey, mum, you don't have to work no more. You've done everything to build my life. You don't have to work no more, mum, because I've got you.
That is beautiful.
Hey, wife. Hey, kids. I mean, you can work if your passion chooses that you want to work, but if you don't want to work, all good, I've got you. I want to be that person for people. I don't know why, but I've just always had that dream of like, all good, Marcus can do it. All good, Marcus has got me. Like,
there's no doubt you will as well.
I appreciate that. Even let's say the brothers that we talk about, our friends, like the idea that they've been with you since the start and supported you. Can you imagine being 30 years old, for example, and being like, hey friends, like, let me take you here. Well, let me buy you this thing. Of course, that sounds very material because as we know by our brothers, they love us for who we are now. So they don't need the thing that you buy later, but that's why they deserve it the most. I really want to be that person.
You can be that person right now.
I am that person
without
right
the
now.
Money involved. Like,
be there with your time. Like
rich in heart.
Correct. As in like, you can be a provider for people without financial ways of like, okay, well, let me hear what your problems are. Let's talk and things like that. But I just mean from a freedom perspective, I don't want to think about money when I'm older. I love what I do, and just like you, I want to make things that I'm proud of, and I'll do this for free. In fact, as you'd know, we have done this for free for years. That's what the reps and the compounding is. But like, build it to a place of financial reward where
I agree.
Are you similar for a 30-year-old? Do you want kids, Tommy? Are we going that deep?
Absolutely.
Me too.
I want 10 kids. No.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We'll see.
Me too. I've always had this idea.
A big family would be so cool.
Yeah. But then you again, in this
that is a lot of money.
In this world we live in, that's a lot of money. But can you imagine being so well off where you're like, fuck it.
Well,
I'm going to be Elon Musk and I'm going to populate. I'm going to populate. Man, I've kind of asked everything else I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah. Is there anything that's in your head right now that you might want to ask me?
In terms of work or just
anything?
Life?
I mean, like I was gonna get into maybe perhaps the idea of your clothing line and why you've chosen that. Is that just you being creative person, or are you wanting to start clothes one day? What's your...
I always have the interest in like clothes and stuff, so I definitely would like to go towards more into that, lean into that. With a bigger audience now, I can kind of see if more people like what I like. So yeah, it'd be
do
cool
you
diving into clothes.
do you have plans to... I know we've talked about the idea of being liquid and being able to float about and have pop-up locations because it's smart business strategy.
Yeah.
But there is a value in having a set location. That's why so many cafes do it.
This is like the goal, like pop up to pop up to pop up. And then when I'm like established or whatever, really try and create my own little spot from scratch, like everything that I wanted.
So there's a goal.
I reckon that's what I want to do.
Homeboy
right now,
HQ. Homeboy HQ.
Yeah, exactly. Like the place.
Would you like to be in the city, near the beach? What's your vibe?
I actually have been looking at a few new places.
Ooh, you hear that, everyone?
I looked at a place in the city, but they're like empty, so I'd have to like invest quite a bit to set it up. But that might be necessary.
Well, you know what the best part is because of your following and because of your ability to build connections, Tommy.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll have an issue finding investors. Like, you don't need to have the money up front. I'm sure there are people willing. Like,
I have actually had a few investors.
There we go. Guys, see, this is why I'm glad I asked. This is why I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, Tommy, I think I'm happy with everything we've discussed.
Yeah, me too.
Is there anything that you could wrap this up in terms of for the kids? Don't worry about how to start a cafe or how to start a social media brand. How do you think, and again, I'm not suggesting that you're a guru or that I'm a guru, right? We're not wizards, although your last name is quite wizardy. Is there anything the kids need to hear at the moment with the way the world is, what's in the generation's head at the moment that could help them? I've got one if you...
You go first.
Just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so cliche, Tommy. I know, like, oh, let me just tick that box and say believe in yourself. Yeah. But like it starts with the smallest of things. Like, you don't need to believe that you're going to be a Don multimillionaire provider like Marcus is saying he wants to be when he's 30. It's believe that today, if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And while the promise to yourself might be one day I want to start a cafe like Homeboy, perhaps the promise to yourself today is today I'm going to wake up, put my shoes on and do one thing that might get me closer to there, especially with the idea that no reps are wasted. The keeping of promises to yourself, and I'm not perfect with this. I've definitely, to get where I am, I've kept a lot of promises to myself, but I've also broken a lot too. I found for me, Tommy, maybe you could relate to this. When you break these promises to yourself, while in the long term, while in the short term, it might not be a massive deal, but in my head, maybe I need to fix the way I process these, but I consider them little mini micro fractures inside of my like psyche. Every time I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, it hurts me more. It kills me. And sometimes the more you do it, the more you feel hollow as a person. And then the more you feel hollow as a person, the less confident you are and the less you believe in yourself. So build this habit of when you say something you're going to do, you do it, even if it's a small thing, because it all compounds. Does that jog anything for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I say literally just you have to take action, and it's out of your hands. If you put in the reps, like God will make your life plenty.
100%.
It's just, reps, literally.
I like that. The idea of, and we could get into the whole idea of manifesting, but this is a good note to end it on, is like people think, oh, I'm going to speak it and it's going to happen and that's manifesting and yay. But it's also like take action, which is if you are taking action and you are doing the work, sure, it becomes an element of time. Some people don't get successful straight away. It takes years and years and years, but inevitably, like you said, it's kind of already written for you. Exactly. It's done. The destiny's written. And if you believe it that way, it's like, okay, well, this is going to happen. Let's say you're an athlete. I'm going to reach this record or I'm going to win this competition. The more you speak it and the more you take actions on it every day, it's a guarantee. It's literally
stack of undeniable proof that you are.
You sound like Alex Hormozy right now. Yeah. But like it's written for you. It's done. And you know what? What's the bet? So let's just say one last hypothetical to end the podcast. You're a boxer and you're training for a fight. And you look in the mirror every day and you say, I'm going to win this fight. And you back it up with, I'm going to win this fight because I action this thing each day and I do it consistently and I do all of the
Coding
things.
mentality.
Yep. I do all of the things required for me to win this fight. And somehow you lose the fight, right? The best part about that is you walk away knowing you did everything you could. And I know that sounds wishy-washy, soppy, everyone's a winner.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. It's you adjust the way that you see the goal. The goal isn't the win. The goal is who you had to become to get the win. You've done the work. You've done the reps. You are twice the boxer you ever were ever. And I bet you win the next fight.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's never about the goal. It's about doing the thing and believe in yourself.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
What advice would you have for someone like me? Because looking back, you probably see a lot in me that you see yourself because you're probably in that creative
I've never ran brick and mortar. This is why I respect.
But you're in food and you're in business.
Yeah. What would I say to someone like you? I would say you never know too much to learn. I know we kind of already touched on this. I'm still learning that lesson myself. A lot of times I'll shut people out and say, look, I've got my system. I just need to execute now. Because a lot of what happens, and maybe this is my advice to you, is it's so easy to get caught up by the next flashy idea. I bet you as the creative person you are, every day you wake up and you're like, oh, I could add this, I could try this, I could do that, I could do this.
Sleepless nights sometimes.
Yeah. And it's inspiring, correct. But you also at the same time, if you try and action every single one of those people because you're someone who takes action, you actually do yourself real dirty. You do yourself real dirty because you're like, this idea would be good, this idea would be good, this idea would be good, and then you end up actioning none because
so you think too much is there's a limit.
Pick your thing, right? Do it, test 100%. It, try it, but don't. There are so many shiny objects out there, bro. So many shiny objects, and I'm telling you, if you can't, of course, being flexible and adapting along the way is good. Like you might find that okay, well maybe this way of running a cafe doesn't really work, and I'll try it this way. Maybe the advice is stick it out until you really know the answer before like, okay, well, I've tried this for 3 months. It's not really working. Time to pivot to the next thing. But then you've actually moved on before you struck gold. So maybe you can't fix what you don't measure, Tommy. This year, I mean, even if I were to apply this to my personal life and not just business, I've lost 5 kilos in since probably November last year, right? Yeah. I gain a lot of weight because I'm always eating and working and da-da-da. As soon as I finally sat down and weighed myself each day, reflected on it each week about how my exercise habits and eating habits were going, consciously taking the time to be like, okay, I did this week and this happened. Okay, I didn't do this week and this happened. Tracking, right? You can't fix the things you don't measure. A lot of people be like, in business especially, they'll do things by feel. Oh, this one's not working. I've posted 6 versions of this video and it's not gone viral. Sure, look at the numbers and adapt, but a lot of people just stop before they struck gold. Stick with it and measure it, right? You know, you might only be getting 2 more views than you did the day before, but that's 2 more views. Something's right. Figure out what it was. You know, there's nothing worse than succeeding, right? And doing very well and not knowing how you did it because it means you can't do it again, Tom. Yeah. So the more you measure, the more you have physical proof. And the best part is for you, when you're training other people to be you, because inevitably brick and mortar, staff, hospo, staff, it's all of my customers are your type of people. I work with restaurants. That's my business, right? Yeah. Staff is the biggest thing. And the key will be, and you've heard this a million times, how can I replicate Tommy? How can I build out other Tommys in this business so that I can focus on the important stuff while other people help me make the coffees? You need to be able to be a teacher and they need to be able to know what you know. And guess how they do that, Tom? They read the stuff that you wrote down as tracking. It becomes the instructions. True. Here's how I did it. Oh, look, I wrote it down. Here, read the Bible. Here's the Homeboy Bible on how to do Homeboy, right?
And even my videos and stuff, they can just go through them. That's what
they're called, as well. For the business heads out there, they're called SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. But essentially, they are instruction manuals. And this is actually, you know, we're going into a rant now and it's getting into the longer end of the podcast. This is good though. You've got me switched on. For the people who are starting a business or are wanting to improve at any sort of skill, a lot of the time, you know, you go to school or uni and they'll say, you know, do your look, say, cover, write, check. Learn the thing, write it down, memorize the thing, write it down again until you've memorized it, right? What I'm saying is when you're doing you've bought a course or you're at uni or you're on YouTube and you're doing your study and you're writing it down and you're looking at it, every time you learn something, even if you're just learning by doing, like you're shooting your first video for your new business or you're shooting your first video for your new personal brand or whatever it is, every time you make a decision, write it down and say like, here's how I did this. Eventually you'll take that list and I bet you 3 months later after you've done it enough times, your list will change and adapt, but always track the things that you do because then you're able to measure them, fix them, and it becomes almost like an instruction manual for how to be you. I measure everything, man. And the best part is like in the world we live in now where online courses are being sold. I'm not saying that like here's how to run a business.
Here we go.
It's more of like you're able to, the value you provide to people, especially in this day and age, is not just like, here's what I can sell you to give you a solution. It's here's what I can teach you and here's what you can learn. I mean, even your most recent brand deal was with Fiverr. Like
$1 billion company.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That whole business is about like people with skills selling their skills on to people. I love that you're promoting them. Like it's a smart thing because it's like, hey guys, I'm an 18-year-old business owner. I need to fix my branding. I've gone to Fiverr. Here's what you can do from Fiverr and learn from them.
Yeah.
I like it. Guys, track what you do. Try your best. Believe in yourself and wear lactose intolerant hats.
No, thank you so much for having me. And I think you'll go very far. You're a very good speaker, very good
Thank you.
hard worker, and like really respect.
I appreciate it. You inspire me too, Tommy. Like I know it's more of a marketing gizmo that you're 18, but I don't see you as an 18-year-old.
When I turn 19, it's going to be rough.
Your business is over when you're 19, bro. He's like, this bloke's old now. Nah. Anyways, guys, that was another episode with the Mouthful of the Mouthful with Marcus. Thank you for watching. Make sure to press the subscribe button. Do all that stuff that you do when you like a video, and check out Homeboy, guys. If you're from Adelaide, go and visit him. And if you're not from Adelaide, you can.
I have one more thing for you.
Yeah,
I have a little gift.
Wow! What is it? What could it possibly be? This is the shit that we love, guys. Community, relationships, collaborations. Unreleased. Ooh, another Marcus exclusive, everyone. Here we go. Bonus. Homeboy coffee. Is that the secret thing that's coming?
One of them.
Wow, guys, for the visual listeners, currently I'm holding up a Homeboy roasted coffee blend, medium roast, caramel toffee.
Don't spill it too much.
Shh. Something's coming. Thank you. I will let you know how these taste.
Yeah, let me know.
I love.
It smells crazy.
They smell good. Thank you for this gift, guys. That's been the episode. I appreciate you watching, and peace and love.
Love you guys. See ya.
That was good.
That was good?
Very good. Thank you for this. This is awesome, man. This is the future.
It is, bro.
And you know what the best thing is people that aren't in Adelaide can reach you now. You are scalable.